Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is TDT, the Developing Trader, coming back at you again with another weekly analysis and projections. So let's start off here by talking about our news releases that will be happening this first week of March. Let's start with Monday, March 2nd. We do have ISM Manufacturing PMI happening at 10 a.m. That is a red folder happening tomorrow. Be aware, on Tuesday we have nothing. No news releases happening on Tuesday as we jump into Wednesday, where we have ADP, non-farm employment change. And we also have at 10 a.m. ISM Services PMI. So we'll be having some pre-market action on Wednesday with this ADP, non-farm employment change. And we'll also be having some silver bullet action happening at 10 a.m. PMI. On Thursday, we have unemployment claims coming in at 8:30 a.m. And we're ending off the week with a NFP Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, Friday is going to be active in our pre-market. Pre-market to the stock market open at 9:30. So at 8:30 we have average hourly earnings, we have core retail sales, we have non-farm employment change, retail sales, and also unemployment rate releases, all happening Friday. Very active Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Please plan accordingly. Let's jump into Dixie and see what's been happening on these charts. And we're kicking it off with Dixie here. This is a monthly chart. Now, if you've been following my videos for this entire year, you know that we are bearish on US dollar. We looked a few weeks back at this IO Fed that happened in the last 3 months, looking at the quarters. What I want us to also take a look here is at on this 3-month chart right here. Price is kind of consolidating in this gap that's on the 3-month chart, okay? And as we go down into the monthly chart now, I want to see what happens if price has the strength to get back into this gap, because we have had some bullish price action that was unexpected. But when we get into the daily chart, you'll see that it did have a rejection that we were looking for. If price wants to get animated, which I don't see it doing at this time, I'm looking at how it interacts. When I say animated, I mean animated to the top side the way it did. I want to see if price can get back through that, or will this consequent encroachment of this monthly FEG right here be enough as a catalyst to take us further down, taking the liquidity from the prior month sitting here and going down into these gaps that I had labeled from our last weekly analysis and projection. You see, we just dipped in, and I was telling you guys I think we're gonna take a deeper dive in there for that quarterly target. Now let's look at the weekly here, and you can see that we have created this gap, and we're just kind of going back and forth, barcoding within this gap. So price has gotten above this void, but it's still moving around in this gap here. Notice as it respects the consequent encroachment of this gap here, from here to here, with the inclusion of that void. We're looking at that. But we also want to see if price wants to use this as a catapult to give us another dive into some of these gaps above the price action here. Anything that I see going up at this point in time, I'm looking at it as price going into a premium in order to seek discount. So that's what I'm thinking on US dollar. Let's look at this chart here. You can see this does look like it wants to make another drive up, unless we could get a really extensive bear candle and close some of these gaps below. But right now we want to see how much respect is on these gaps that I'm creating at the bottom here. What I should do in the future when I'm breaking down gaps like this to make it easier for everyone, because as you see going from the 3-month to the monthly, and now we're on a daily. You're probably kind of confused on what all of these gaps are. So moving forward, when I'm breaking it down this way, I'll highlight the gaps with labels. So that's my apologies on this video. I'll fix that moving forward. But right now we want to see if price can break this daily gap here, or does it want to use it to catapult into these levels above from the weekly and the monthly chart, that I believe would then send us down further with that bearish action. Can price continue to move above and go into these highs above price action? That is yet to be seen. We have liquidity sitting above these candles. See, each of them was tapped. This was tapped before breaking down. The last liquidity taken was this here before driving down. We want to see if the same thing is happening here, where it takes this liquidity and now it's driving down. Okay, so I did not expect it to even clear this gap here, but it did, and now it's kind of consolidating but holding that gap, and we want to see that gap break one more time below here, and then we'll see if it has the strength to keep going down. It can actually consolidate as well, so it's in, you know, a kind of complicated position at this moment, but we'll see what transpires. There's a lot of news releases this week, and we'll see what happens with that. Okay, so let's move on to NQ. And here we go with our NASDAQ monthly chart here. Let's pull this thing back and take a look at what we have going on here. Let's actually go back to a 3-month, quarterly chart here. And if price wants to continue reaching lower, which it does look like it wants to do, I want to see if price has the weakness to go into this gap here. And there is another gap sitting below here that's connected to this block here for January of last year. So if price falls, these are the areas we would look at to see if there is support, or if it's a meltdown and we want to go lower than these levels. But these are the immediate levels I'd be looking for on a quarterly push if we were to have some more bearish action happening. On the monthly chart, the only thing that I see here is this liquidity right here. Is already taken the month of December, is already taken the month of January. The next liquidity is right here for November, and as you can see, it's sitting right on top of this 3-month gap that we were looking at here. So we want to see if price wants to dig down into that quarterly gap, and if there is any support in this area, I believe we'll get a long wick at some point that dives in, like how it did in April of 25. You see where it dives really deep. We're going into that time frame right now, March and April. Not saying that because it happened last year it's going to happen this year, but just looking at the way price moved last year, we had this top, and into February it kind of slows down. March we get a deep retracement, and an even deeper retracement going into April. So we'll see if price wants to do something similar here, reaching down into these areas if price wants to remain bearish. Let's look at our weekly. Let me just label this right here. So that's the quarterly 3-month gap, and also a monthly liquidity pool sitting right there. Let's see where these liquidity pools are on the weekly. So right now, the last thing that gave us support was these gaps in here. You can see the bodies respecting these gaps, and that's where I want to see if price goes through, gives us a close beneath this gap, and then we can use this gap to seek lower liquidity on a longer term basis for the next few months if price continues this breakdown that it's showing right now. So moving into the daily, right here, you see we had a small bullish push this week, takes this liquidity, immediately rejects. During the midweek analysis that I did, I was saying that we want to see if price comes down a bit and leaves a gap. Did not do that, as well as it did not even find support here. Intraday, I was looking to see if there would be support within inversion gap right here, and you see price comes down, and you can see it closes in there, and then it uses it to dive deeper. Right now, these liquidity pools are in danger, sitting right below the market here and here, leading us into that 3-month liquidity pool and FEG that we're seeing. This is the weekly liquidity pool here. Let me pull it out, and so you can see where I labeled it. I'm sorry here, man. Okay, there we go. So yeah, that's that liquidity pool that's sitting on the monthly and the 3-month gap. This here is the 3-month FEG. Hold up. Let's put that at the inside. And then we have this here is our liquidity pool. Right? Pretty sure that's a monthly liquidity pool. 3-month FEG. Very long-term price structures that we want to watch. In order for me to feel like this was still bullish, I would like to see respect on either this gap when it retraced, or having a stronger push above and a closure would have given me a little more confidence that we might still be going for this liquidity above the market. That may be saved for later on in the year. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Right now, price looks like it just wanted to run that liquidity right there, and now we're headed down into these liquidity pools below. Not saying I'm just going straight in and looking straight for that, but we want to see price confirm that through the week. But I'm almost certain that this liquidity here is going to be challenged, as well as this liquidity and this here as well. So we'll see how that interacts with so much volatility happening this week. Guys, make sure as always you're staying on your P's and Q's. Always stick to your models and stay disciplined, and never allow this market to shake you, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And that's going to be my analysis for this week. If you have any questions, you can drop it in the comment section below. We're just learning and developing, following price action, and learning as we go together. So I hope you guys are getting some kind of benefit from this, even if it's just watching a guy try and fail miserably at calling the market. Then hey, you'll see me get better over time. I promise you that. So that's going to be TDT for this week. Y'all have a blessed day. I'm out. Peace.